Mie epäilen sen perusteella, että kuinka pitkä tämä peli on, niin tämä olisi sitten viimeinen jakso. Mutta on ollut tosiaan upea kokemus. Katsotaan, miten tämä tarina etenee. Tiedetään melkein kaikkien kohtalot. Pelkästään äiti ja veli puuttuu. Me olisin varmaan voinut löytää jostain jonkun lisäkirjan, millä me olisin niin sanoa Svenin mukaan tämä sukupuhu, kun Kei on kumminkin nyt tuossa mukana. No harmi. Ai niin, ja Edin kohtalo, se on myös epäselvä. Be a baby. Ihana. No, ihan pätevät niinku säännöt. Joo. Joo. Voin seistä näette takana. Vähän on kyllä sääntöorientoinutta meininki, mutta joo. Ei hassumpaa.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
En halua, että Edith Fich kuolee. Jää nähtäväksi.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Mathematics. Ai että. To teach critical thinking. History, math, science, religion. Joo. Taitaa olla opettaja.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later.
Nopea rakastuminen.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
Minun juttuja.
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Fact or fiction? Mielenkiintoista. No ei mikä ihmekään tää Edith on niin hyvin perillä niinku sen suvusta, koska se on opiskellut sen sukua. Joo, nyt minulta ei enää niin huono omatunto siitä, että miten mie tunnen omat juureni. Great job.
But it didn't last.
On tää kyllä vähän outoa niinku, joo. Aika outo. Mitäs tuossa lukee? Orcas Island, Lutheran. Okei, joo. No niin, katsotaan, että onko täällä kaikki kunnossa. Ei. Minä en näe kertotauluja. Ei. Mhm. 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 Mm. Mm. Kyllä. Levis rules. Joo.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Mennään tutkimaan. Vähän sen nukuttaa. Johtuen edelleen niistä minun viimeöisistä matikkajutuista, mutta kyllä minä jaksan tämän vielä loppuun saakka pelata.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Tää pitää nähdä.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Okei, katsotaan se nyt vielä. Joo. Kyllä. Ahaa. Ei mennäkään ulos siitä enää. Mennään ulos jostain muusta. Anteeksi, kuinka pääsen pois? Vai pystyykö me tekemään sulle jotain? En? Okei. Pystynpäs.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Okei, eli hän sitten kasvoi aikuiseksi, joo kyllä.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Ah. Pelikonsoli.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to...
Miksi? Mitä? Mitä haluatte minun tekevän? Oh. Tuntuu siltä, että minä en pysty tekemään hirveästi mitään. Minä pystyn liikuttamaan oikealta tätä minun kättä. Eiku, pystyn. Ja niin kuin minä olisin niin vasemmalla yrittänyt jo. Ai vitsi, tässä on joku juttu, että kun me keskityt.
He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth.
Mie niin näen, mitä tässä niinku tapahtuu. Tässä kun mie kattelen niinku tätä labyrinttiä, niin mie laitan käteni tuonne silppuriin.
And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head, but he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery, but his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor, and he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality.
Törmää.
Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for
No, the rainbows.
radiant rainbows. He followed the sound of her
Väärin.
electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it.
Okei, tää on siistiä, miten tää koko ajan niinku...
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Miten nää peligenerit koko ajan kehittyy enemmän ja enemmän kohti kolmatta persoonaa. Ja ehkä aikanaan
Someone
kohti
who'd
ekaa
never known
persoonaa.
success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Minä aavistin tämän.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Louis, the cannery worker.
Tapahtuuko tässä nyt itsemurha?
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Okei, ei mene sinne. Ei mene tähänkään. Mennään tuonne. Eiku me haluat mennä tähän. Joo.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Joo.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him. On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe you should have come sooner.
Mitä tarkoitat?
But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
Okei, nyt kuunnellaan.
I got turned around.
Jännitys tiivistyy.
I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine!
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by.
Ootas. Elikkä Edith oli 2010 ja Dawn 2016.
My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Minusta tuntuu, että mie kuvaan joskus toisten varmaankin nämä minun ajatukset. Minusta tuntuu, että tämän pelin teemat on sellaisia, että minun pitää miettiä niitä pidemmän aikaa ennen kuin mie mitään rupeaa näin höseltämään videolle. Mutta liikutuin. Sanotaan tälleen, liikutuin. Annapurna. Ai vitsi. Nää tekee tosi hyviä pelejä. Tai sanotaan, nää julkaisee tosi hyviä pelejä. Ainakin sen perusteella, mitä me on kokenut nyt tän ja Outer Wildsin jälkeen. No okei, se päällimmäinen fiilis, sitä me voi niinku sanoa ilman kummempi miettimisiä. Me on nyt tällä hetkellä aika hitotyytyväinen siihen, että me on niinku hengissä. Ja näillä näkymin on huomennakin hengissä ja on ylihuomennakin ja siitä vielä eteenpäinkin. Eläminen on kivaa. Pystyy vaikka niinku venyttää nukkumaan menoa sillä, että niinku laskee matikan tehtäviä. Tai vaikka laittaa meemejä kavereille tai juttelee perheen kanssa ja käy töissä. Käy töissä ja auttamassa ihmisiä niinku oppimaan asioita. Okei. Joo. Tosi hyvä peli.